Your land could be a partner, one who knows you and responds to you differently than it does to anyone else. Learn more with regenerative ag designer Sydney Raym on this episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Get away from the cares of the day. Free stock, root stock, feed stock, seed stock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me. Welcome back to Food, Flowers, and Fun. I am your host, Kay Castrataro, and as always, we are sponsored by Penlight for Farmers, and we are helping you to have purposeful farm lives, rich in abundance, time, and energy. And you are going to love today's guest, my friends. We are sitting here and talking with Sydney Raym. She is from Regenerative Ag Designing, which I should be able to speak, but it's a little late at night, so not so well. And also MTO Kennels, because she raises all kinds of cool herding dogs and guardian dogs and companion dogs. And man, what this woman has not done, I could probably just list on one hand. So Sydney, welcome. So glad to have you with us today.
Thank you. No, this is so much fun. I'm so thankful that you found me. This is something that I feel like I should have done so long ago. So this is great.
You are podcast guest extraordinaire material, because there's just so much to talk about. We'll never get through it all.
I'm like, I have an hour, but we probably need 3.
Well, we'll get you on again. But we're going to start. Right. Tell us how you got into this thing called agriculture to begin with.
Yeah, so my family has a road named after our family, upstate New York. There was a big dairy operation there for many, many years. And growing up, my grandparents had a place in the Ozarks, which is where I spent all of my time. If I was in Oklahoma, I was there. My grandfather just threw me right into it. I mean, from learning how to catch and process and fillet your own fish, to using the carcass of the fish to make good compost and garden bed flooring, to animal husbandry, to the greenhouse, to an orchard. I mean, he just threw it all at me from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I think also having the generation of farming behind me, it's in your blood. So
say that all the time.
I knew what I was going to do. Yeah, I knew what I was going to do from a very young age, and it's just stayed with me. So here I am as an adult, just doing it.
Yeah, but you're not doing the dairy business the way that your forefathers and mothers had done.
That's right.
Tell us what you're doing now and how you got into it. The regenerative is a part of your business name, and so talk to us about what that means for you, because that's a catchphrase that gets thrown around.
Yeah. So I mean, well, and it's a phrase I feel like everyone is using nowadays, but it's not fully understood, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I started MTO Farms, Mount Olympus, many years ago, and I dabbled in various species of animals, what worked best, how these would coordinate in the sense of pasture rotation, and what really created the best soil. Because if our soil or our foundation of our farm is not where it needs to be in the sense of bioavailability of nutrients, water retention, there's nothing we can do with it. So
yeah.
I dabbled around, and my partner and I got into dairy sheep because we started with goats. We didn't want to do cows. We did not want to take the dairy cow operation and bring that into this generation. We wanted to switch.
Why was that? So what was it about the cows? Because I grew up on a dairy farm as well. So
yeah,
what was it for you about the dairy farm that you were like, nah, not cows so much?
Cows are not super sustainable. They are a crucial part of a sustainable process, but to have an operation that is truly profitable when you're producing just one product, such as dairy product, you need a large group, and that makes it a lot more difficult. Cows are a large animal. There's a lot more input, a lot more output.
Yep.
And they're not as versatile. Yes, you can get meat. Yes, you can get dairy. Yes, you can get compost. But again, it's a scale issue for us. We wanted to start small, right? A cinch to grow an inch, hard to grow a yard. Um,
That breeds
so
in
we
a
start.
long time. It makes me feel
so
happy.
so we started with goats. Actually, we're like, let's get into the goat dairy space
Yeah,
because it's a very healthy dairy. It's great for those who
burgeoning.
may have allergies for cow's dairy. But goats are just, excuse my language, guys, they're a pain in the ass. They're so hard on fencing. They're so loud. The males pee all over themselves. They pee all over you. They know, they're very smart, and they just are all up in your pocket, that it just was too much.
Yep, they're
So
not a good fit for you. They're
yeah,
troublesome. Like when I
they're
think about, I mean,
troublesome.
my very first experience with goats, we had somebody bring it onto our farm. There's a long story for why that was, but it ended up getting loose and it jumped into
Mm.
a wheelbarrow and broke its bloody leg. And
Oh
now
yeah.
it's like that. And this was while I was on a replacement heifer farm. And I looked at that and I was like, what kind of fool animal gets loose, jumps in a wheelbarrow, and
A
breaks
goat.
its leg? But a
Yeah,
goat.
a goat. A goat. Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're gonna destroy your fencing. And when they graze, they'll pull it from the root. I mean, they will destroy plant life if not managed appropriately.
Yep.
So we went to dairy sheep. They
Hmm.
can be used for wool, they can be used for meat, they can be used for dairy, and their dairy product is so far superior to cow or goat.
Really?
The mineral and vitamin content, the palatability of the dairy. If you are allergic to cow, if you're allergic to goat, you will not be allergic to sheep. If
Mm.
you're allergic to goat, or I'm sorry, cow, and you just don't like the taste or the smell of goat milk because it can have its own,
It does get a little,
hmm
yeah.
sheep milk is very sweet. There's no real odor to it. It has a very sweet taste.
Yep.
So it's just they don't produce as much, right? So people love a cow. You can get a gallon, 2 gallons off a cow. You get 25% of that off of a ewe.
Yeah.
So, but we also run Mangalica pigs. So they're Hungarian red meat
Yeah, talk
pig.
to me about that because we always do like
Yeah.
pork is supposed to be the other white meat, but not these. These are the other red meat. So
Yes,
so
yes.
talk to us about those if we don't, for those of us out there like me who are not familiar with these.
Yeah, so the fuzzy pig, the Mangalitsa is the fuzzy pig. They've got fuzzy curly hair all over their body. They come in three traditional colors. You've got your whites, you've got your reds, and you've got your swallow belly, which is black up top with the white belly underneath or
Yep.
underpinning. They are a Hungarian breed. They were very close to extinction in the early 90s. And a lady named Barbara worked very hard getting them over here to the States and has created a registry, embor, to help produce proper genetics, full blood animals. That way they can be DNA tested and have pedigrees in this registry. So they're definitely making a comeback. People are realizing, wow, they're a very docile breed.
Okay.
Considered a pasture pig, so you can keep them in the woods, you can keep them on the pasture.
Yep.
They do better in that environment, so it's great for rotational grazing.
Yep. Yeah, and for
They
more
will
Sylvan, like people who are doing a lot of Sylvan agriculture, sounds
exactly,
like that would be a great
exactly.
idea, having them out in the woods
Oh
and
yeah.
rotating through there and
And if you have producing trees of any sort, they will pick up everything that falls, so there's really no waste. You've got acorns
right,
or pecans, etc. They're going to pick up what you don't harvest.
right.
Now they do root just like most pigs, but
Hmm.
because they're a pasture breed, they're not as rooty as if you were to have your more traditional pork breeds.
Sure.
So that's also nice too, because then you don't get as much destruction.
Yeah. No, do you
I mean, they're
find
still going to do it, but
well,
it's
of
not as bad.
course. And that's some of the beauty of having pigs actually is that
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to claim woodlands or that kind of thing as a different type of agricultural site, pigs are great for that because they do help
Yeah.
do all of the all of the
Yeah.
ground,
Hey, you want a
that
garden?
initial
Throw a pig
tillage
out
and
there.
cleaning. Yeah, they're really good for that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
definitely an interesting part of a farm environment. Yeah, the
Hmm.
cat's doing his thing over here because it wouldn't be a podcast without Vladimir doing
Oh, are you busy with something? No, 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 no. You can't be
it.
busy with anything.
He's a pistol.
That's a cat. That's a cat. I know.
So you're doing the pigs, you're doing the sheep dairy. Um, and what else are you growing? Because you're not just growing, you also moved into a whole shipping industry. So talk to us about all of that expansion.
The transport, the livestock
Yeah.
transport.
Yeah.
So that actually started years ago. We don't do it as much anymore, mainly because the reason why we were hired was because it was us transporting the animals. So when I first started MTO Farms, it was very difficult getting really good genetics to me because the genetics needed to come from other parts of the US,
Hmm.
and that requires transport. And we just kept running into transporters not having animal husbandry as their priority, which
Mm,
is wild to me because they're in the business of moving animals.
right.
So I started Mount Olympus Transport. I just added as like an extra, sister finger of the farm. And we hauled all kinds of stuff all over the US, from small animals like chickens and guinea pigs for, guinea pig shows in Las Vegas, Nevada, all the way to exotics. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to see the US, I got to travel, I got to really network and meet all of these other farmers and homesteaders and breeders. But after a while, those miles wear on you,
Yeah, they do.
and it's very hard to manage anything at home when you're always on the road. So we kind of pulled back from that and got more into the design space because our backgrounds are in regenerative design. How do we build from the ground up and make a property not only sustainable, but have systems in place that are going to build true longevity? The biggest
Right.
thing we were seeing with farms was that they were burning out, and then they were not being profitable anymore. They were soaking up all the resources in their soil, and if you're pulling from a cup constantly and not filling that cup back up, that cup goes empty. She gets
Yeah.
dry.
Right.
So we thought, what can we do where we can take our education and our passion for this and implement it for other farmers? Because we're seeing a huge shift right now of our grandparents wanting to retire or passing away or just not having the energy to farm anymore.
Yep.
And then my partners in my generation's coming in, and a lot of them don't want to farm. They're in the tech world, they're in the AI space, they're in spaces that are no longer rooted with the actual ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought, okay, how do we get into that to where we can help save these farms and the future
Right.
generations can benefit from it? Maybe they don't want to work the farm. That's okay, but keep it in the family.
Mm-hmm.
You're a steward of that land. Your
Yeah.
your
So
ancestors have bled and sweat on this land. Let's keep it here because the land now knows you genetically. People really don't pay attention to that, but the land responds to the people that are on it.
So talk to me about this because I'm assuming that this comes from your Native American heritage, especially as well. Like
Yeah.
this really informs you. So talk to us about that part of your background and how, like I remember when we did the screening call, you made the comment that you have to actually stand on the land to be able to
Yes.
understand it. And once you get on
Yes.
the land, it kind of speaks to you, which
Yeah.
I just think
Oh,
is
yeah.
I think is incredible because not all of us have that innate gift or are as attuned to that as you are. So talk to me about how that works for you and what that is like, how it fits in with your history.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this too because I am a big believer that everyone has a skill. They have something that they're here for. That is what they're here for. And that's the beautiful thing of it takes a village, because it really does.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
can't all be into the same space. And while I might not have been raised really deep into the Native American culture that I stem from,
Mhm.
it's still in my heritage, and therefore it comes out in my intuition is extremely strong. I see and feel things in ways that other people don't, and it's very hard to explain because it just is what it is. And
Right.
that's something that I learned about land was being in a space. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. Hang
That's
on.
okay. That's okay. We do that here. We do that here.
I walk into spaces and I don't know, it comes to me in the sense of what should we do? How should we do it? Where should we start?
Mm.
Um, and it's very hard to explain because it's not like a process. I don't stand there and chant or hum or, there's no real
Right.
rhyme or reason. It just is, and it just comes to me.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I implement it, it works. And that is really where the word of mouth comes to play because people are like, hey, I've seen it. I've seen
Right.
how this works. I've seen how they do this. It is a thing, but there's no real explanation, right? A lot of people will have like their process. I think my only process is I have to physically be on the land, walking around it, seeing it, smelling it, touching it, sitting with it.
Hmm.
And then it just talks to me. It
And you
really
said
does.
that that's
It
like a
just
2 day
talks to me.
process, right? You set aside
Yeah.
like 48 hours to go
Yeah.
and visit these farms that you do design for, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the
And
first day,
go ahead.
we're going over the intake form,
Yep.
what they've already filled out for me virtually. We're
Hmm.
going over what their expectations are, their budget, what type of resources they can pull forward, what type of resources we're going to have a plan for. And then we also do like a preliminary walk of at least as we can, because some of these properties are huge. There's
Huge.
no walking 750 acres in a day.
Oh, come
Um,
on.
and so we'll spend the night. So we get to experience an overnight on the
Mhm.
land. And then the next day, or at least I am immersing myself into it. I'm taking my soil samples, I'm taking my plant life samples, I'm getting all of my photos. I'm doing topo to figure out if what our grades are like, how our water retention is set up, all of that, and getting just the basis foundation while also I'm on the land while I'm, acquiring all of this hands-on info.
Mhm.
So then when we go home, we can put it all together
Mhm.
because every project's different. Everyone's budget's different. Some are a little bit more stubborn than others and don't really want to change a whole lot. Some want to start with one project, see how that turns out, and then add from there. Some are like, let's just do it all, overhaul it. It really
Yeah.
depends. Um, but it's been a lot of fun. And now here in the States, because again, a lot of the projects that Eric started on was international.
Yeah.
Bosnia, Australia,
Oh, wow.
Mexico, and so New Zealand. And so now here in the States, it's a whole different ballgame because people don't realize that agriculture is very much the same, but so different depending on where you're at.
That is why I
So
love this.
different.
This is why I love this show because it doesn't matter what kind of farmer comes on the show.
Yeah.
There is a similarity and a sameness to so much of it. And
Hmm.
then there's always this like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. Or, huh,
Right.
go
Right.
figure. So they do
Hmm.
that. And
Yeah.
this is what I love about agriculture and about looking outside of your own circle because I feel
Right.
like if you're always in an echo chamber, and I think this applies to all of our aspects of life. I think if you constantly live in the same little group of people and you don't force yourself to learn about outside perspectives, and you don't have to physically move. Like I worked in the humanitarian sector for about 10 years and still do some freelancing there. And yet I never left Rhode Island in that 10 years that I was doing that. I sat right here and I did my work from here. But I heard stories and I watched the people who were involved in humanitarian crises, and it transformed the way that I view the
Mhm.
world because
Yeah.
I was able to see and hear and talk to people who were living a life so different than anything I could possibly imagine. And I
Yeah.
think in this time, especially, that is so critical. And if we just sit with the people that are all in our space, we naturally attract the people who are like us, and we
Hmm.
all feed the same thoughts, and
Hmm.
we get narrow-minded, like we really do. And I think the best thing we can do is hang out with people who don't agree with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Expand, expand,
Yeah,
expand, expand. I will say one thing that I've realized from being international and having a partner who is not from here,
yeah.
um, America is a bubble, and it's wild because when you turn 18, you're supposed to go straight to college. You should take a gap year and go travel.
Mm,
You need to explore because there are so many different people. There are so many different ways of doing the same thing,
yeah.
and you don't really know what connects with you until, just like that you said, you're around people who don't agree with you and they bring a different perspective or they bring a different sense of information or experience, and you go, "Oh wow, I like that better."
You
Right?
learn
So,
sensitivity and you learn
mhm.
empathy, which, in some circles seems to be a dirty word, but it's really that's what makes us human. Like to sit there
Absolutely.
and to be able to take on, what do I want to say? How do I want to say this? To take on the stories of other people for a little bit and wear them and
Yeah,
say, huh, what is this like? And I feel like when you're talking about being on the land, there's a piece of that happens for you because you were talking about how the land responds to the people who've been on it for
absolutely.
years. And I feel like that goes both ways, that the
Yeah.
people who are on the land take on the characteristics of the land. And so there's like this very mutually reinforcing thing that can be either really beautiful or it can be really destructive. Like
Yeah.
there are certain
Yeah.
certain pieces of ground that really seem to have almost a burden in them
Mhm.
that feeds back into people. So it feels like the I can't say the word. Feels like the regenerative process.
Regenerative.
I know how to say it. My mouth is just not working for me today. So that process of regeneration, that process, it seems like it's like a healing process. So
Absolutely.
can you give me an
Absolutely.
example of a farm that you went on to and what it was like to actually engage in that process and what it looked like and felt like when you first arrived and what it looked and felt like when you left? I didn't prepare you
Sure.
for this question.
Yeah. So a lot of times, we're not there 24/7, right? We're there for the original intake and planning, and then we'll do check-ins
Mhm.
based off season, based off what the project is. Some projects, are going to take a little bit longer, etc. But I think the most favorite one was it was in the somewhat of the Ozarks in the east part of Oklahoma. And this is my favorite one as far as like stateside goes. We're gonna talk the US.
You can talk around the world. We do stuff around the world. So broaden us, but go ahead. Work on the
Um,
Ozarks first.
yeah, yeah. So it had been a hayfield for quite some time, and it had like this edging of woods right around the edge of the properties that had been separated, but they left, very thick, dense woods around the edging so that they were kind of separated, but the main interior had all been a hay pasture. And it really was not very well taken care of or managed. They just cut what they could cut, and that was that. Well,
Mhm.
there were some areas where if you didn't actually drive over it, you didn't know that it went boop. And so you could get, equipment stuck. It
Yeah.
held water, it would get swampy. And because it had just been left basically untouched, nobody really had a good idea of what the flow was like of this property. And there was a big river that ran on the east side. Well, we went in, and just by managing the livestock appropriately, Now we did a little bit of dirt work because it was needed to help shift how the water was running because it would just flood part of a really important area to go from
Oh yeah,
wood
no, I've
wood to pasture.
we've had two fields in three fields on my farm that did that that have got low spots and they flood every time you get a heavy rain.
Oh,
Yep. Yep.
and I mean, you can use it to your advantage if you want to store water, but we needed it to be redirected. But we only wanted to do a little bit, right? We only wanted to move it a little bit because we wanted to create a retention pond at the front end of the property. Well, by properly using a couple cows, sheep, and then the Mangalica pigs, we were able to naturally move that water into an area that then became a retention pond. And,
Mhm.
we didn't have to do a whole lot. This is what really sat with me was that once that water was set up appropriately, it's almost as if the land said, it created its own diverse little ecosystem.
Mm.
Geese came in, lily pads started growing. I mean, we didn't have to do anything. A lot of times you need to add microbes, you need to add
Nope.
things to that
Yep.
new little pond to help it build itself. Oh no. Oh no. This piece of land said, "Hell yeah." And it was great. It was beautiful. Moss started coming in on all of the rocks that we had set on the exterior of it to help retain. And it just became a hub for that little area where the geese would come in, which is great when you don't have your own geese because they are a great fertilizer. But it was nice because they would also leave.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want
They
resident
could be
geese. Those
disruptive.
those resident geese that we brought in for hunting back in the what was it, the 60s or the 70s, I think is when they started hauling in those Canada geese. Yes, yes, that was not a wise decision of us.
But they would come, they'd do their thing, they'd leave.
Yep.
And so it was just interesting because I remember we sat back and said, we really don't have to do that much here. The
Hmm.
land knew what we were doing and said thank you. And said thank you so fast that at that point we were like, okay, well, this is great. So we can set up irrigation from this retention pond now. We can also plug into this constantly running. It wasn't really a river, it was more of a creek, but it was bigger than a creek because it was constantly flowing.
Yep, yep.
um, to then be able to build it up to where they didn't have to just have hay. They could now use other types of crops. We could do cover crops over the winter without them being drowned out, things of that nature. It
Wow.
was so great. It was so great. And it's funny because the landowner was like, well, that just cut my budget in half. It's like, yeah, that's right. Sometimes the land knows what you're doing and responds without help.
Yeah, so
It
let
just
me
says,
ask you.
yes,
So you
thank
said a
you.
couple of cows, some sheep, and your pigs, and
Mm.
and what is it that you did that helped to shift the land?
So we
It,
use electric fencing,
yeah,
mobile, like the mobile electric fencing, and
sure.
you need to have them in certain areas to impact the ground, right? So your cows are going to be your heaviest. So
Yep,
you use them when you've got your new dirt down, you use them to basically move it where you want it. If you've got a low area, you're going to keep their feed and fodder in there because then they're going to continuously go down in that area and build or break that down, right? So then that's how you can build your natural waterways without going in with excavators and digging it up.
wow.
Got actual animals
Yeah,
processing the land appropriately, right? So,
yep.
and that's not always the case. Sometimes if it's a big job, we're going to use an excavator. We're going to have to use
Oh,
something to get
absolutely.
it, fast tracked. But this wasn't something that was a huge necessity. It was like, hey, these are the resources we've got. You don't have a huge budget. Let's see what we can do with it. And it worked out perfect. Um, the pigs we used to help kind of root up some of the areas where we set in real big rocks and real big boulders around where we wanted to create this retention pond.
Yep.
Plus, their poop, their feces in that space, I really attribute to how that now pond was able
Regrow.
to
Yeah.
flourish and create
Yeah,
um,
they're very nutrient rich. Nutrient
big
rich.
time, big
Yeah.
time. And so now that client can stock that pond with fish, with other
Yep.
little marine. I'm now, I don't think that they did well. We had a game plan. We had a bigger game plan. But that project was more of a project where they just didn't really have a budget. And it was like, all right, here's what we've got. What can we do with it?
Right.
And it was just interesting because we didn't have to do very much. And the land said, thank you.
Well, I think
So,
that's what I'm taking away from that story. I mean, there's so much that I'm taking away from that story. But one of the things that I really am is that if you go in there in a targeted way, you don't need to be really aggressive with,
right,
your approach. And again, that's not necessarily the case for every site, but wow.
right.
So I find that just fascinating.
Well,
So,
and we loved it. We loved it because I know Oklahoma very well. My family has been there for a few decades now, trickling down from New York.
yeah.
But this was the east side of Oklahoma, and there were mountains. So it's not what you think of when you think of Oklahoma. And it was just beautiful terrain,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful terrain. And we had a good time. We had a really good time on that project. It was a
Yeah.
completely off-grid project too, so there was no running water, there was no electric. I mean, they were off-grid.
Okay. Yeah, we had
Yep.
we had a cattle farmer on a few episodes back ooh, who lives off grid. They have a generator and stuff, but they're ranching out in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so that
It's
off
tough.
grid life is a whole different ball of wax, which again is where being able to use your livestock appropriately for that period
Yeah.
of time is really super helpful. So I just love that. So not only do you go and help farms, design something that's going to make their land happier and therefore make farmers happier, because when our land is happy, farms are happy, they produce better, that gives us better income.
Right.
Income makes everybody like that, the whole sustainability, all those
Yeah.
issues of
It's a
sustainability.
win-win for everyone
Right.
and everything involved.
Everybody's
Yeah.
happy. The environment, the society, and the pocketbooks, they're all happy. So we
Right.
love that. In addition to all of this, however, you have a kennel as part of
Mhm.
your business as well. And your dogs are a little bit diverse. And tell us about them because I'm
Yeah,
sure I'm
so
sure a lot of listeners are going to be like, wait,
oh
what? What dogs are they breeding?
yeah, no, it's so funny. I'm the dog lady.
Yeah, let's talk your Corsos and your Frenchies, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I got into the dog world almost 20 years ago. I have been involved with the Frenchies for about 13 years now. Corso's just under that. I've dabbled in certain breeds just for understanding what works best when it comes to the farm life. You've got Turkish Bows are great for predator protection. A lot of people like Pyrenees for their guardianship. I prefer Corsos. I like a very strong, intense animal. Corsos are very versatile when bred appropriately and have the proper mental. They can be used for service dog work. They can be used for livestock guardianship. They can be used for herding. They
Mm,
can be used for perimeter and predator protection. So a good bloodline is extremely versatile. Some people just want them as a home companion slash guardian because maybe you don't want to have a gun. Well, a dog is just as good, right? And just as much of a deterrent on the front line,
Yep,
depending on where you live and what you're looking for.
sure.
Um, Now with the Frenchies was actually a joke. Many years ago, a friend of mine, she goes, Sydney, you're so in depth with the pedigree research and the training and the development and the mental aspect of your dogs. French Bulldogs have a lot of issues. You could do some good breeding appropriately this breed. And I did some research and I thought, I'm just not a small dog person. Well, let me tell you, these guys are small dogs, but they got big dog personalities, okay? They are
Yeah,
more
I mean the
personality than
people
anything
the
I've ever
people who
met.
fall in love with them, they swear by them. Like they
They're
just love them.
weirdos.
I
The
gotta
dogs
tell
are
you, like
weirdos.
I haven't quite gotten into the Frenchie thing, but more power to the rest of the world who does them.
Yeah,
I still like my
they're
shepherds and
great
that kind of stuff,
companions.
but
That's what they're bred for. And what's
yeah.
funny, and people don't know this, the original French Bulldog was actually bred as the brothel mascot. So madams would have the French Bulldog to help the clientele that came in that were a little anxious, a little nervous. Maybe this is their first time with a lady of the night. The French Bulldog was the icebreaker. It was the conversation piece. So that's what their main purpose was. And so they're
Well,
bred
folks,
to
you
be
heard
your
it here
friend.
first, right here on Food, Flowers, and Fun. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I've
So
got so many things going through my mind that I'm going to keep my lips nice and
oh
pure.
girl, we can have a whole podcast about this.
But
Let me
not
tell you.
here. That's not here.
Yeah, yeah. So, I got into them because I saw that a lot of breeders were just breeding them solely for companionship. They weren't doing x-rays, they weren't checking orthos, they weren't making sure that the skeletal development of this tiny little it is a dwarfed breed.
Yeah.
And when you deal with anything dwarfed, you run into problems.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I'm sitting here thinking, man, all these breeds that I personally worked with, you have to do orthos, OFAs, pen hips, radiographs, things like that. There are a lot of disease
Because you've
panels.
worked with all the larger breeds, which
That's
are
right.
exactly, it's almost like the opposite side of the same coin because the
Right.
really big breeds, they've got all that weight and size, and so that creates all of those big
Right.
hip
Well, and
issues.
they're working animals, so people want to know that structurally they're going to be sound for
Right.
years to come, and they are big investments. I mean, these dogs are not cheap because
No.
of the work that's gone
No,
into the pedigree.
they're
So,
not just pets. They're
right.
actually tools.
That's right.
They're like a piece of equipment. So you
Exactly.
want them to be
Exactly.
able to do what they're supposed to do. Yep.
Right. So, with the Frenchies, it took some time. I raised quite a few up and had to pet home them because when they would hit adulthood, they were not passing the testing that was needed. But I was able to build a good foundation, and we are now, proudly enough, I am 6 generations in, where we have passed our pen hip and our OFA for our spine, our hips, our elbows, our knees, trachea, the BAR, which is the breathability,
Yeah.
the NAIRS, hearing, sight, and we still keep them very small, very compact, like a proper French bulldog. They're not 35 pounds. They're not real long sausages. They are a fully equipped French bulldog, but they can pass their orthos and they can breathe clearly. So we can use them for anything. Fast cat racing, vermin control.
Wow.
Uh, my partner has even trained a couple to herd chickens.
No
That
way.
and I know. I wish I had video footage of this. I really should at some point get
Yeah,
some
you
video
do.
footage. But we trained
You
a
need to,
female
and
to herd our chickens.
we'll put it on like as an extra bonus feature because like
It was the funniest thing.
oh, that's hysterical. It's like herding
Oh,
cats. If
so
you can get them to herd cats, then you're really in.
oh well, I don't know about that, but yeah, herding chickens. She was our fast cat racer.
Oh
And so
my God.
she had a good drive and she picks up on stuff. She is we giggle because we call Pura our Belgian Malinois of the French Bulldog because she is just go go go, needs a job, tell me what to do. I love being told what to do. I mean, she's
Wow.
and he did
Not
with
what you
some
think of
whistles.
with a Frenchie at all, because you
Uh,
do kind of think of them as the lap dogs that just kind of sit
Yeah,
there and don't do
they're
anything.
very smart. They're very, very smart. They're just very stubborn, and people get that confused, the stubbornness with being not so smart. But consistency is key. And, I tell people they are a bulldog. They're cute, they're cuddly, ooh, but you cannot spoil them. They are a bulldog. They need an alpha. They need someone who
They've got
manages and
structure and
creates the boundaries.
respect.
Yes,
Yep.
or they'll run all over you.
Oh,
So those are the dogs are my pride and joy just because I've been so involved in my pedigree and in my breeding for so long.
yep.
And I feel a little bit more of a reward because dogs are an emotional companion, right? It's a lot more
Yeah.
than your pigs and your sheep and your livestock. We all have emotional bonds with our animals, of course, but dogs are like they say, a man's best friend. So
Yep.
there's a different type of reward when you've raised and trained a really solid animal that then goes on to someone's household and they're like, this is the most amazing dog we've ever encountered. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I've never had a dog returned. Most of my clients are repeats. I've got one chick who's going on her fifth dog from us.
That's
So
the
I'm
kind
very
of
proud.
clients you want.
Yeah. So I'm very proud. I'm very proud and very, very like all about it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, the dogs have been a very fun project. And I'm so sorry because we're in the way that the schedule worked out today, I'm in the car and
No,
I'm
no,
losing light.
no, no. I can see we're losing daylight, but
I know.
the day I just channeled my dad and my grandfather, my great grandfather when I said that because they'll always say that we're losing daylight. Um,
Losing daylight.
losing daylight. So we're losing daylight, but fortunately we're coming to the end of our time anyway, so it's all coalescing at the right
Perfect. It's
time.
perfect.
So I'm going to ask you one question before I get to my closing question, and
Sure.
that is with all of the diverse things that you're involved in and all of the traveling that you do, all of the really intense, there's a lot of intense physicality to what you do, I think, but
Yeah.
also a lot of emotional and mental load that goes with that. So it's like the whole package. How do you take care of yourself?
I love the sauna.
Sauna.
I love the
Talk
sauna.
about the sauna because we talked
Hmm.
about the sauna and I have not done the sauna thing. So talk
Oh,
to because you have a routine with your
well,
sauna,
just
right?
know that once you go to the sauna, you will always go to the sauna.
Maybe I'll just install one in the backyard.
Hey, you can get a decent one for like $1,000 and it'll last you forever as long as you take care of it. It'll be
Yeah.
a little wooden sauna outside. You can have a window put in, just sit there and be able to look around. I do about 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
I sometimes try to push to 30. It really just, depends on the schedule, right? But 20 minutes at 160 degrees up to 200 degrees really just depends.
Yep.
And yeah, I do it after a workout. Sometimes if you don't have time for a workout, it's good to just go in there, grab a book and just let your body sweat.
Yep.
But
Decompress.
something about it makes you feel as if you climbed Mount Everest, which, I don't say that lightly because I know people who've done that and that is a feat. That really is a feat. But there
Yeah.
is this high that comes with it where you just can tell that you did the right thing for your body.
Well, there's that
That-
purging. I mean, the whole point
yes.
of sauna and
Yeah,
sweating, like sweating is actually it's not just to cool us off, it's also actually a purification of our system. Like we get rid of toxins when we're
that's
sweating.
right. That's
So,
right. Yep.
I can see how 20 minutes of that a day where you're purging your body with in a healthy way. Like,
Right.
please,
And
I don't
stretching.
mean purging in the
Stretching.
eating and purging. That's not healthy. I do not espouse that. But in the idea of we're getting all that toxin out of us, and that is definitely one amazing way to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you take the time to do that. So that's it. That's part of your daily routine.
Yep. Stretch, smile, and sauna.
Stretch smiles.
Those are really, I mean, truly, and it's funny because it's S. My name's Sydney, so I'm like, yeah, but it is, it doesn't matter what's going on. Just smiling for one, smiling at yourself can change your mood. Smiling at a stranger can not only change your mood, but it can completely change their day.
Transformative.
Absolutely. Stretching, if you're not using it, you're losing it. So stretch until your heart is content, and then the sauna.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Those are the
feel like
best.
you might have zoomed my last question and
Okay.
jumped it because as I'm listening to that, I'm like, that feels like a lesson we all need. But my last question of the day is always, if you had one piece of advice that you thought every farmer should know, what would that be?
One piece of advice that every farmer should know.
Mm,
Your land wants you to take care of it so that it can take care of you.
mm,
The land wants that. It wants that relationship,
mm.
right? But it can't do it on its own. That's why we are the stewards of it.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's the best thing to tell them because a lot of times I run into people and they're like, "Man, this property hates me. It never does this, it never does that." And it's like, "No, no, no. The land wants you to be in union with it, but you've got to listen to it. Sometimes you're right, it doesn't want to do what you're trying to do. So listen to it a little bit more because once you find that symbiotic relationship, it's just so invigorating."
Wow. Now, see? Oh, no, that's a whole episode in and of itself. So,
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Sydney, I don't know. I might have to,
I'd love to. I think this is so fun.
we
I
will
think this is
definitely
so
get you
fun. There's
back.
so
Are
much
you?
stuff we can unpack.
So much. I like that whole thing right there. And as I always try to respect our farmers' time because, it is evening time and you
Yeah.
have put in a day and you've got your own, you need some extra sauna time today, I
Yeah.
think. So
We got a lot going on right now,
yeah,
don't
we
we?
we want to
Oh
give you the
man.
full 30 minutes in the sauna today. Lots of smiling and stretching and sauna time. So
Yeah.
so I want to thank you so much for joining us and for the wisdom that you have brought with you because I mean I've learned a lot and I think everybody else out there is going to learn something as well. And thank all of you for joining us. We will see you next time on Food, Flowers, and Fun. Bye.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Farmers calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for Food, Flowers, and Fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.